Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I begin in the name of Allah, whose mercy is profound, whose kindness is forever. I hope by now you are already in the habit of practicing whatever we have learned as yet in Arabic grammar through your reading of the Quran. That's the only way you will understand the direct meanings of the Quran, by going into the text, by applying the principles that we have understood, and by looking at the translations. Obviously, we should not expect that we'll all of a sudden start understanding the meanings of the Quran and translating it directly. We will resort to the translations, look at what the text is saying and what the translator has done in rendering it into our language, and see what principles were applicable. Let's move on. There is a way of expression in Arabic wherein a verb is used in order for the meanings of it to be expressed in a forceful, effective manner. There are different ways of doing it. We know, for example, maf'ul mutlaq is one way of emphasizing that a certain act happened, a certain verb incident took place, and it took place at a not a normal level, but at a level of high, call it intensity. But there is another way of doing it, which is called noon mushaddad. Why is it called noon mushaddad? We'll know very shortly. I'll just give you an example of how it happens. There is a fail muzare yansuru, for example. By the way, noon mushaddad is an idea which gets applicable in the muzare fail. Ordinarily, it's yansuru, yansurani. Yansuruna. But when it takes the form of noon mushaddad, it's going to be yan suranna. Yansuru, he is helping. He will he will help. That's the future. But when you are converting the same verb into noon mushaddad, you're actually stressing it, emphasizing it, taking it to a high level of emphasis, intensity. Yansuru, he will help. Yansurunna, he will most certainly help. In actual fact, in most cases, what you find is that you also have a lam of emphasis added, like the lam of emphasis you have innal insana lafi khusr in that verse. So this is what happens. And this is obviously because it's called mushaddad because this noon that is added has a tashdid. It's repeated twice. Yansurani becomes yansurani. Not very often used. But the other one that is used quite often is the plural form. Yansuruna becomes yansurunna. Now, the only difference between yansuranna and yansurunna is that of this harakat, vowel. In this case, it's fatha, zabar. In this case, it's dhamma, pesh. Likewise, tansuru, tansuru, tansurani, yansurna. This is the original fail mudari gardan, and that is, this one is noon mushaddad. Now tansuru, I hope you will do it the right way. If you do it on your own, would become tansuranna. Like yansuru became yansuranna, tansuru would become tansuranna, and if you add the emphasis, lam of emphasis, it would become la tansuranna. Tansurani, tansurani. And the last one is a little uncharacteristic, doesn't follow the same flow. And for good reasons. We've seen it that plural feminine follows a slightly different pattern. It's yansur nani. Thankfully, not used in the Quran. So this is noon mushaddad. Likewise, you move on to do the other different boxes of gardan, of the metrics. So this is noon mushaddad. Let's do a famous example of it in the Quran, and I'll give you a reference of where it's found in another passage in a greater number. And obviously the reason why we are doing it here is that we want to understand how the different verbs are used in the Quran. The famous example is the example that we have in the case of Surah Takathur. The Almighty mentions in Surah Takathur, thumma, then latus alunna, most certainly you're going to be asked. Latus alunna yawma izin, on that day, anin naim, about the blessings. So thumma is then, and this is noon mushaddad. Ordinarily, it really was a verb tus'alu. Yeah, I always have a problem with seen tus'alu. This is passive, but it has become tus'alunna. No, it wasn't tus'alu, it was tus'aluna, because this is the deciding factor. If it is dhamma pesh, then it's actually tus'aluna, which is plural, which is converted like this. Had it been a fatha zabar, then it would have been singular. Thumma tallatus alunna yawma izin anin naim. Thereafter, you're most certainly going to be asked about the blessings. This is Surah Takasur, Surah number 102. One passage of the Quran where you will find many verbs converted into mushaddad is in Surah Ibrahim verses 13 and 14. So that is one other expression out of the way. Probably the very last of the things that I have to now introduce, some people say that when you are learning the very early part of Arabic, probably it is the most daunting, the most difficult. But that's not true. I'm sure that when you've come as far as you've done in these lectures, and you've followed them properly, done better than what I have taught you, you'll most certainly find that what I'm going to now introduce you to is not going to be difficult. Before I do that, let me first take away from the path, the flow, another aspect of understanding, which really is kind of a basic principle. If you appreciate, you will have a taste of how verbs, certain or words, even nouns, change in certain cases. You see, there are 3 letters, 3 alphabets in Arabic: Hamza, Waw, Ya. Each one of them has a haraka, a vowel, which is similar to it in its sound. So, alif and zabar, waw and pesh, that is fatha, dhamma, and ya and zir, kasra, are the pairs. And these 3 letters are called huruf illat. They have a problem. They create difficulty. Why does it happen? Well, it has to do with the taste of the Arabs. The sound of letters, when words are spoken, when they are preceded by a certain sound which it is not particularly comfortable with, it causes difficulties. We do have our own peculiar difficulties in speaking English because of the kind of sounds of letters that we are more familiar with. It's only when people live with those whose mother tongue English is that they are able to pronounce words more properly. These 3 letters, when they appear in a way that they are preceded by a harakat vowel, which is either consistent or different, there are certain changes that take place. And there is an elaborate discussion in books of grammar about these huruf illat and the principles that they follow. It will be great if some of you are able to go through those principles and are able to master how those principles get applicable. Well, I've given up. I'll just understand in principle what this whole idea is, and you get a taste of it as to what really is happening. Now, what I'm trying to say is that, you see, if you take a very famous verb qala and you see its mudare yaqulu, going by the understanding that you've had as yet, you should ask yourself, what's going on? Why is this verb, the pair of past and present future, mazi and muzare fail, why do they look the way they are looking here? Why are they not following this pattern of daraba yadribu, of nasara yansuru. Why not? You see my point? I mean, Dharama has dha, ra, ba, and Yadribu has dha, ra, ba with an addition of ya. Nasara has nasara. Yansuru again has nasara with a ye, ya preceding it. But it's not happening here like that. It's qa, a, la, and qa, wow, u, lu. So, it's different. Why is it different? Well, that's what brings us to this discussion of huruf illat. While explaining the reason, the grammarians suggest that the original past tense of qala was actually qavala, and the future was, the mudari was yaqvulu. Yaqvulu. That's what the pattern is. Nasara yansuru, qavala yaqvulu. But actually it's qala yaqulu. So the way they explain is this, that because vaw and zabar, fatha, they are not consistent. They kind of don't agree with each other. They don't go well with each other. Therefore, it had to be one of the two things. One would have given way for the other. And this being preceded by zabar, fatha, it actually required that vaw should disappear. And instead there should be alif, which is consistent with the fatha of qa, and it should become qala. Qavala is an awkward expression for the Arabs. They don't feel comfortable. The fact of the matter is that obviously that they have been speaking qala right from the beginning. It's only the grammarians whose task it is to explain the principles of the language the way they are spoken by those whose mother tongue it is, just to explain the rationale behind the way it's done. They say that, qala was originally qavala, although originally it never was, but just trying to understand it from the point of view of its principles. And it became qala because of the fact that alif is not consistent with vaw, so one of the two had to give way. And yaqvulu became yaqulu for the same reasons. Vaw and dhamma, they go together. So, the flow had to be consistent, compatible. And that is how, huruf illat, whenever they appear, they introduce changes. They demand some changes for them to be accommodated. They are the troublemakers. They are the ones who change the pattern. So that probably is one important principle to learn, that when you are reading Arabic, speaking Arabic, and you got in a word huruf illat, and you find that the pattern of the word is not what you would ordinarily expect, then don't be surprised, don't be disappointed. It actually is because of one of these three letters appearing, and appearing in a way that the vowel preceding it or succeeding it is not consistent, and they are therefore some kind of changes that are incorporated to make sure that the Arabs, when they speak, they do not have any difficulty. So we take the same qala, it's passive, quvila. Can you imagine what kind of change has taken place in the real world, when it's spoken by the Arabs, it has become qila. That is, this kasra, zair of wow doesn't accept a wow, and qaf has its dhamma pesh. So it's all becoming very difficult, problematic for the Arab tongue to pronounce it. So qawila becomes qila. And likewise, its muzare is yuqwalu. Yuqwalu. Somehow that too is an awkward pronunciation. So yuqwalu would become yuqalu. Yuqalu. It's an adjustment because vav and fatha were not getting well together. You have problem understanding, I have problem understanding as well. The only thing is that you need to understand that alif, vav and ya are the three problem letters. And the problem is that they have in the harakat, the vowels, three similarly sounding vowels, each vowel having one, call it partner amongst the alphabets, the Arabic letters, and as a consequence, there have to be adjustments required to take place. They are troublemakers. They are the ones who cannot stay, function, work together with everybody else easily, more particularly when there are inconsistent, incompatible harakat coming before or after them. So that kind of an adjustment, it takes place, and obviously there are people who are convinced that there is a neat, consistent pattern that is followed, but that is when it actually gets translated into principles, it becomes a pretty cumbersome, difficult to understand description, science of principles. But you know, it's sufficient for a beginner to know that these huruf illat, when they would come, you would have the formation of words not the same as you would expect. May the Almighty enable us to understand the Arabic of His book properly and to follow its message as best as we can.